Hello, Shazzie here. On video. God, I love magic. I love the way the world works these days. I'm in England, dreary old England. Can't even show you, it's so dreary, and it's March. And I'm speaking to the wonderful Elwin Robinson, and he's in Portugal. Hello, Elwin.
Yes, I'm in Portugal and very happy about it right now. Hi, Shazzie. Lovely to be speaking with you again.
If it wasn't for me beaming in England, there'd be nothing bright about it at all, I tell you. How are you doing in Portugal?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it is right now actually raining and cloudy and windy, so that might be some
Right.
consolation. I'm loving it over here, though.
So enough talk about the weather, Elwin. I hear you've got something very special to tell me today, and it's something like a new training series or something like that. What are you doing these days?
Well, excellent question, Shazzy. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to talk about. As my wife will attest, it's all I love to talk about, and that's my new training, my new high energy academy training. And this is really, as far as I'm concerned, the best thing that I've ever created, and it comes from obviously, as you know now, years of really focusing on energy, helping people with energy, really also focusing on reducing stress and overwhelm as well, because to me they go hand in hand. When you have a lot of stress and tension, you damn well don't have a lot of energy, and that's a fact. You can't get around that because they're so depleting and draining for your energy. And so I've discovered, having helped a lot of people with this, that there is four main obstacles that everyone comes across, right, when it comes to having energy. Number one, I'm so stressed and overwhelmed that I can't even do anything, right? I can't, forget about your training, Owen. I'm too stressed and overwhelmed. So that's the first thing. So that's the first thing we need to deal with.
Yep.
And that's what we deal with in video number one, is some instant, straight away tips that work immediately, like while you're watching the video, to help to massively reduce stress and overwhelm. So that's the first thing that we cover. And in video one, I also talk about the three main types of energy, which really helps you understand the whole situation for the first time. Because I think a lot of people think of energy as like stimulation, like if you're bouncing off the walls, then you're full of energy. But the truth is, it's not as simple as that, right? And energy is really all about balance and harmony as well, and having deep reserves, and being relaxed and calm and centered and present and all those kind of things. So it was really an explanation of what energy actually is. And then, of course, the next challenge, once you've dealt with the stress and overwhelm, is I don't know what to do, right? Because there's so much contradictory information out there, and even when it's not contradictory, it's like, how do I pull it all together, And I remember that challenge, because when I started off, I was really badly depleted and very lacking in all kinds of energy. I was lacking in vitality. I was, ill all the time and had major kind of health challenges. I was lacking in adaptive energy, which meant I was, very stressed and anxious all the time. I was even signed off work for 2 years because of anxiety issues. So I'm very familiar with like having deep levels of anxiety, and I was very depleted. So yeah, I understand what it's like to be in that position, and so I understand what it's like to go, oh my God, I don't even know where to start, and everyone seems to be saying different things, and most people just seem to be out there to defend their own belief system rather than to help per se. So I've what I've done is I've listened to the feedback of everyone who I've worked with, because I've been in the trenches, as it were, coaching and working with real people rather than armchair theorizing about what works for years now. And I've discovered that there are basically like 12 laws. There are 12 things that you have to do to have high energy, and they're things that you can't get around. So now, exactly what you do with them, everyone is different, everyone is unique, right? So just to give you a random example, you need to move to have energy, right? But there's no point. I could say to one person that, running and jogging is going to be the thing that's going to make you feel more energized, but that may be totally wrong for another person, right? Maybe for them, just like a little bit of light walking is what they need, or a little bit of yoga or something like that. So we're not getting dogmatic about, you must do my system, but we are saying, look, there's 12 basic things that you need to incorporate as part of your lifestyle in order to feel that consistently high level of energy. And so in video two, we go through those in detail. You get a little worksheet, tells you, here's the law, here's why it's important, here's the one action step you can take straight away to get a result. But then everyone always thinks that that's it, right? Once I know what to do, I'm good. But you and I know that isn't true, right? Because when most people know what to do, that's only the beginning. The next step is to get yourself to do it. And of course, as a coach, that's been as a coach, that's been one of my main focuses, right? And I've spoken with a lot of coaches. In fact, one of the other things I do is train coaches, and I've spoken to a lot of other people who are coaches, who have been coaches, and their biggest frustration is always, I tell people what they need to do, and they don't do it. Right? And most of our biggest frustration with ourselves is, I know the right thing to do, right? Now, we may not know everything, but most of us know I need to drink more water, right? I need to get more fresh air. I need to get more sunlight. I need to do more exercise. You know, I need to spend more time with my loved ones, whatever it might be. We know those basic things that would serve us, and yet we don't do it. And so, you know, a lot of the time there's all kinds of crazy theories about why that is, and we talk about self-sabotage and stuff like that, but and there are a lot of, you know, throughout civilization there have been all kinds of, you know, spiritual, religious, philosophical, and now psychiatric kind of explanations about why we can't just get ourselves to do what we know is in our own best interests. But the way I really like to look at it is to understand it from a brain level, because that's the thing that's changed recently, is we can actually get rid of all those theory and speculations and look at the brain and say, what's going on here, right? And my decision, like my conclusion, is that there's an area of our brain which, if it's on our side, completely helps us to fulfill our goals, and if it's not on our side, completely sabotages us. Because we all have that, right, Shazzie? Like, we all have that, right? We all have those areas where we don't do what we know is the best thing to do. And we all have, yeah, for some of us, it's particular areas of our life as well. You know, for some people, they're very good in their business, but they don't look after their health or whatever. We all have our different areas. For some people, they do great with their family, but they don't do so great with their work colleagues, and they keep saying the wrong thing or whatever. So everyone has those areas, at least, where they can't get themselves to do what they want to do. And I would suggest that rather than thinking that there's something wrong with you, because here's what most of us do, right? When we get into that, we go into self-punishment, right? Like flagellating ourselves, blaming ourselves, beating ourselves up, or we go into excuses, or we go into blaming everyone, everything else, right, potentially, or we go into just distracting ourselves, like, oh, the whole issue is just so difficult, I'm just going to not even consider it, and I'm just going to go on Facebook, or I'm just going to go on YouTube, or I'm just going to watch TV. Yeah. So none of those strategies that I just mentioned really serve us, but there is a way that we can get the different parts of our brain to work in harmony. And so that's really what I'm teaching in video number 3, which is crucially important. And then the last thing, once you've got yourself to do those basic things, there's still the one more challenge, which is to keep yourself doing them. Right? Because actually the kind of the mechanism that gets you doing something is not the mechanism that keeps you doing something, right? I mean, I know, I can't even tell you how many times, Shazzie, I've got myself to do something that's in my own best interest. I found that it works, and then I stop doing it. Yeah. It happens all the time, right? We do it all the time. We spend ages working out what it is, and then we do it, and then it works, and then we're like, awesome, and then we stop, right? So, and there is something inside us, again, that we can tap into, again, a different kind of portion of our brain, which will help us to keep doing those things long term, so we keep getting those results, and so those results accumulate. And rather than, so to get ourselves to do stuff, generally the challenge is to engage with and harmonize with and master the more primitive parts of our brain, like the limbic part of the brain. But the key to staying and consistently doing those things which lead us to an awesome quality of life, like I keep repeating in my videos, whether it's creating an ideal life for yourself, or living up to your full potential, whichever is your focus, and I'm sure it's at least one. In order to do that, we need to tap into our higher drives, like our higher aspirations. And a lot of the time, we may, I'm sure if you're watching a video like this, I'm sure if you're a fan of Shazzie's, you're already aware of some of those, but you may not be aware of all of them. And when you start to become aware of all of them and tap into all of them consistently, that's where you find that you don't need discipline anymore. You don't need to beat yourself up or tell yourself off or force yourself to do things or anything like that, because you feel almost like pulled. You feel there is no resistance whatsoever. There's no difficulty. You just do what you do, which is in your best interest, the best interest of the people around you, the best interest of the world, what I call rational self-interest, right? Which is where it benefits everyone. In fact, I saw you just put a post about that on Facebook today, Shazzie, about how if everyone did what's truly in their own best interests, everyone would help everyone, and I completely believe that as well. I think that's fantastic. And so we're actually going to do that training in the form of a live webinar, because I think that's really, really exciting. And then at the culmination of that live webinar, you're going to be able to ask me any questions about it, challenge me if you think that I've missed something, because I'm always up for that as well, and really engage with the whole process, so that by the end of that process, you're on your way. So that's a long answer, wasn't it?
Oh, oh, it is. I like your long answers. It means I don't have to try and say something funny, or reduce myself to talking about the weather again. So you've got, hang on, 12 laws of high energy, which yes. It's not dogmatic, do this approach, but it's like you've got to do all of them in your own essential way, whatever floats your boat way, so that you have continuous high energy. How to get yourself stuff that you know you want to do, and you still, when you wake up in the morning and you go, oh, I'm going to do a green juice and 5 sun salutations and stand on my head for half an hour, and then you get up and make yourself coffee and smoke a fag. I mean, for example. So that, yeah.
Yep,
that's so right. Get yourself to do the stuff that you want to do when you wake up before you put your feet on the floor. And then what were the other two? Did they have like a new title? Or did I miss that?
Yeah. So number 1 was how to reduce stress and overwhelm immediately. That's quite simple.
Ah, yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And then the last one is how to
overwhelmed.
How to tap into your higher human drives in order to keep yourself on track permanently. How about that? It's title off the top of my head. Do you like that one?
Keep you on track permanently. God, that sounds great. So, like, get rid of stress and overwhelm, master it, yeah, and then keep consistent high energy, and then get yourself to do the things you know how you need to do, and then how to be in that place of complete mastery. So at that point, you're not going to be stressed and overwhelmed. You're not going to have to think about the things that you're doing. You don't have to think, oh, I must put ABBA on and have a little dance. You'll just automatically do it while you're brushing your teeth or something. And then how to, I don't know, I got all excited then thinking about ABBA. Sorry. Is there any part in that about having a good memory, Elwin? Or have you got something else that helps?
There is.
I'm in. How do I get in? How do I get in? I want to see it now. Can I?
All you need to do, I've put this video on a special page for you, Shazzie, which means that all anyone has to do is enter their name and I think name and email. It may just even be email, I can't remember, but they have to enter their details anyway. They need to register, and then they'll be put through immediately to video number 1, and they can learn about that stress and overwhelm thing.
So let's get back to the first thing that you mentioned, which was overwhelm and stress, just so that people can get a little bit deeper right now, so they know what you're on about a bit. What do you think the main causes of stress are? Doing an interview?
That's right up there. I would say that most of the time our stress is caused by not being present. In fact, I would say to people, rather than you have too much stress, because most of us think of stress as something on the outside, right, encroaching in on us, making us feel a certain way. We treat it as if it's an outside phenomenon. But really, stress is our lack of ability to adapt to the way things are right now. And usually that's because we are not paying any attention to what's going on right now. We're living in our head. So I'd say the number 1 cause of stress is living in your head and putting your focus on the contents of your mind rather than on the world out there. Because there's something interesting about our programming, you see. The more primitive parts of our brain, which I mentioned earlier, are pretty much hardwired, although you can change it. But they are, pre-wired, that's probably a better way of looking at it, pre-wired to focus on that which is threatening. And the reason why we're pre-wired to do that is because for our evolution, our survival has been under threat, and so we had to look at what was threatening, right? But the challenge is we're still in the habit of looking at things which freak us out, which scare us, which make us anxious, which worry us, even though it doesn't serve us to do so. So for every one genuinely scary, genuinely worrying, genuinely bad event which stresses us that's out there, we've got about 50 times as much going on in our head, in our imagination, in our memory, right, in our fantasies. We're like, oh, what if this happens? Oh, it was really terrible when that happened, And so most of our focus, most of the time, is on the contents of our head, which is generally, unless we are very mentally disciplined, stressful, because that's what we're pre-wired to do. So all we really need to do to reduce stress massively, and this is a constant practice that no one finds easy because of the way we're wired, as I say, is to stop focusing on the contents of our head and start focusing on what's going on out there, right here, right now. So the challenge is this. Most of our stress is caused by being focused in our head at all the things to be stressed about and to be fearful about. And stress and fear really are the same thing biochemically, right? There are adrenal glands being active, sympathetic nervous system being active. So we need to make it a practice to constantly take our attention out of our heads. And by the way, it's the opposite of the way the world is going, right? Because we've got more media than ever before. We've got more reasons to live in our head than ever before. And so it's about taking our focus away from that and pointing it out there. And most of the time, at least 98% of the time, if you take your focus and point it at the world out there, you realize there's nothing to be stressed about right now. If I'm looking around, I could very easily stress myself out about all the problems and, oh my God, what if people think I look like this, and what about if this doesn't work, and da 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 da. But if I just stop, take a breath, look at the world around me right now, I'm like, oh, everything's fine. Right? And that's true for most of us most of the time. Certainly all of us in the developed world. Maybe if you live in a war zone or something, that's not the case for you. There's bombs flying around you and people out to kill you. But for us, that's not our reality. So most of our stress is just too much time in our head, not enough time in the world out there. And there's one other distinction and everyone, by the way, talks about that in the spirituality, self-development world. Like Eckhart Tolle, he's famous for teaching all about this, about being present. But what I find is a challenge is that almost no one is telling you how to actually do it. So in the first video, I give you a practice for something that you can do, which takes literally a few seconds, that immediately helps you to get present. Right, so I won't do it now, but that's in video 1. I explain it, but then in terms of actually doing it, it just takes a few seconds. That's awesome. Now, here's the other thing. When it comes to stress, most of us, when we are not present, when we are in our head, we're focused in entirely the wrong place. Okay, because here's the challenge, right? There are basically 3 ways we can focus in life. In fact, there are 3 ways we can focus on everything during our day, right? Number 1 is we can focus on the problem, right? So let's pick a simple example. Have you ever had this, Shazzie? You wake up and you see that your house is in kind of a mess. I know I have, and you're like, oh, okay. So let's look at the 3 different ways you could deal with that reality, right? So, okay. Number 1, you could go, oh my God, my house is so messy, it's really disgusting, it's really depressing me, it's really upsetting me, I'm going to watch some TV and eat donuts and smoke a fag and escape because it's just depressing me, right? Now, that kind of basic attitude leads you to feel like a victim, right? But it's also a focus, that kind of focus. If you focus on what's wrong, you'll end up feeling like a victim. And most people watching this kind of video will not be doing that most of the time. But here's the challenge. The second way you can focus is on what you need to do. You're like, right, okay, here's what I need to do. I need to get the hoover out. I need to hoover everywhere. I need to stack all the dirty dishes. I need to wash them. I need to put them away. I need to dry them. I need to organize my cupboards. I need to organize my paperwork. Now, what's the problem with that attitude? And that's what most of us do, by the way. The problem with that is it's stressful. right? If you focus on all the things that you have to do, it's stressful. Whether you have it written down or whether you have just a list in your head. And here's the worst thing about a to-do list, because I always advise everyone who wants high energy to throw away their to-do list, right? Here's the worst thing about a to-do list. What happens when you manage something? So let's say you do manage to clean the whole kitchen. What do? Do you celebrate? Do you pat yourself on the back? No, you cross it off. You just remove it from the list. And all you see is all the things you haven't done still. So all you have is you're reminded of your own inadequacy, right? That's what a to-do list is, a reminder of your own inadequacy. So I say to people, throw away the to-do list. It's stressful and it is ultimately very demoralizing. Instead, have an achievers list. And what is that? That's a list of results, okay? So that's about the way you frame things. So rather than I have to hoover, I have to wash the dishes, it's like, I will achieve a clean kitchen. I will achieve clean carpets. I will achieve organized paperwork, right? And it feels different. It makes you feel different. If you focus on what you need to do, it's stressful. It releases adrenaline. It releases cortisol. But if you focus on achievements that you're going to achieve, it releases dopamine, which makes you feel good, which makes you feel positive, which makes you feel encouraged, right? So then when you do it, let's say you clean your kitchen, you don't cross it off and forget about it. You give it a tick, or you highlight it and you underline it, like, yes, I did it. And that makes you feel good, and it makes you feel positive, and that makes you feel empowered, and that makes you feel successful, and it makes you feel excited about doing the next thing. So that's my 2 top tips for getting off the stress cycle in a nutshell. First of all, stop living in your head. Focus on the world out there, and you'll realize there's nothing to be stressed about most of the time. And then second of all, if you are in your head because you need to organize, you need to do stuff, focus on what you're going to achieve. Focus on your results. Don't focus on the problems, and don't focus on your to-dos.
Oh, God, I feel really empowered now, and my kitchen's already clean, so I don't know what I'm going to do with it all.
Mess it up again and then try it.
Yeah, make some food, make some chocolate. God, I love that. I've never heard of that. That's so exciting. And it is, isn't it? That whole to-do list thing. It's like, I'm never going to get to the end of my to-do list before I'm going to die with a to-do list. I'll have to come back, reincarnate myself really quickly so I can finish it off while I remember. But no, you don't have to, because you just go, I've got all these achievements.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It used to be if I had 10 items on my to-do list and I had 2 items left at the end of the day, I would feel like a failure, because all I'd see are those 2 items staring back at me like, you haven't done me, you're not good enough, right? But now if I do only 6 out of 10, I'm like, wow, I've got 6 achievements today. I'm awesome, right? And it just completely changes the way you feel about it.
It's like having a child again, isn't it? But you're the child, and we are so little inside. We are the little child inside, aren't we? And if we reward ourselves in those ways, then we're going to feel more inclined to keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than spending decades cleaning the kitchen.
Yeah.
When it's on a to-do list, but if it's an achievement, it sounds all right. God, I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's just absolutely amazing. And so if people want more tips like this, so anyone that's watching still, if you haven't drifted off, I'm sure you haven't, that's really exciting. So if you're still watching and you'd like more of Elwin's amazing tips, then I'd highly recommend that you sign up for his free video and webinar training. All you need to do is enter your name and address somewhere on this page that you're looking at right now. Name and email address, not your home address. Elwin's not going to come round and stalk you because he's going to be sunbathing in Portugal. I might. I might come round and check your kitchen.
And your to-do list.
And so I'm going to check your lists. I want you all to send a picture of your lists to our Facebook pages, please. Oh God, they will now, won't they? And that's really it, isn't it, Elwin? You've just got lots of exciting things on how to do stuff easier, better, happier, be more empowered, get more out of your life, feel juicier, and be more amazing as a person, and take that off into the world so that other people can experience it too.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about.
It really is. That's lovely.
Thank you for this opportunity Thank you for this opportunity to share this, Shazzie. It's a great pleasure to share it with your audience because I know that they are super awesome people always, and I've met quite a few of them in person. I've spoken to quite a few. They've become my clients, and I know how awesome they are. So I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you watching this video right now, knowing that you're one of those people who is committed to being an ecstatic being, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share with you a system that works to get there.
Yeah, well, thank you, Elwin. I'm so appreciative of that, and I'm going to go make myself some gold stars now to stick on my achievement list.
Excellent.
Don't know what I'm achieving at the moment, but I'll find something. Washed hair.
Interview of Elwin, check.
Yeah, interviewed Elwin. Big cross. Big, what's it? Star, not a cross. The old way was the cross, the new way is the star.
Exactly. That's a good one.
Elwin, thank you. Blish you, blish you.
Thank you.